Okay, you clicked on the video, so let's just get right into it. The ultimate comparison between two very popular headphone models. On the left, Sony's MDR-7506s, and on the right, Beyerdynamic's DT770 Pros. Now, these are on your screen, but they're also in my hands. I own actually multiple pairs of each model. I've been using them for years routinely, so I'm very comfortable and confident to make this video about their differences. But this is also not a versus style production to tell you which one is ultimately better for everybody, because I don't think that's actually the case. The point of what I'm doing here is to spell out the differences, to spell out the pros and cons of each. At the end, I will make the recommendation of what I typically use more often than not, but I want to point out my choice here may not reflect what's best for everybody. Let's get into each model in detail first. The MDR-7506s, both of these headphones, by the way, they've been around forever. These were launched in 1991, and so they've both been around for multiple decades. They were initially marketed specifically to professionals, and not just because it says professional on the side of it, but at the time, and Sony being a leader in broadcast equipment, there may not have been a lot of products like this out there. So this was instantly received as the next level type headphone for recording and monitoring and a ton of different uses. And no surprise, over the decades, it became an industry standard. You go into television, radio, movie, recording, music studios, wherever you're at, you're likely to see these cans, and the studio monitor on the top is a dead giveaway, but of identifying them. But these are commonplace no matter where you go, and they've earned it. They're closed back headphones, as you might expect for recording purposes, meaning that they don't necessarily offer the most open or airy sound, but they trap the sound. So when I'm here recording something, the sound from my headphones will not leak into my microphone. And these are pretty readily available. As the cost of things go in production, $100 for a set of headphones, or sometimes it dips down to, I saw it for $83 the other day. These are relatively affordable and attainable, so that is another benefit of the 7506s. How do they sound? Hard for me to depict here in a YouTube video, but I do have the frequency response curve, courtesy of rtings.com. And you can see from the low end, I mean, there is a pronounced bottom end to these headphones. These are relatively V-shaped, and I know it may not exactly spell it out here, but look at that boost all the way from 40, 50 hertz up to about, I don't know, let's call it 250. And then there's that mud cut. You see that dip right there, that first little whoop in the frequency spectrum. That's what gives it kind of the radio sound. And trust me, it's something I like. I put that cut actually on this microphone, on its EQ curve as I'm recording this. But to hear it as a cut on the mic, and then also to hear it in my headphones, we'll talk more about that later in the sound of this. It's also got a very pronounced high end. You see kind of the roller coaster of ups and downs there between 2 and 10,000. No question that this microphone has a lot of top end. Sometimes for long periods of listening, you may even say too much top end. It is a bit sharp at the top end, I'm not going to lie, as you listen to these headphones. So that's a look at the frequency response curve. Let's get into the Beyerdynamic DT770s, which, by the way, these are the 250 ohm model. These are the 80 ohm flavor. And when I do remote recordings from work, I'm using the 32 ohm versions. I actually own 3 pairs of these headphones. It is important to spell out those. These headphones have origins. They're made in Germany, but from 1981. So 10 years even earlier than the 7506s. And I'm spelling that out on both of these because you just need to know that both of these models have been tried, tested, and true over the years. When I talk about impedance and the 3 flavors, I have a whole separate video here on my channel on that, but essentially the 250 ohm version are the hardest to drive. They require the most output. So whatever, interface, or in my case, headphone amp you're using, you need to have a powerful one to drive the 250s. For the 32 ohm, you could plug those right into your iPhone. And by the way, the 7506s, I believe, are in the 60 range of impedance, so those work on your on your mobile devices too. 80 will work fine on mobile, but we're talking about how much power and how much signal essentially is required to drive these headphones properly. The Sonys have one version, that's it. The Beyerdynamics have 3 versions, so pay attention to which version you're listening to. The Beyerdynamic DT770 has all replaceable parts. Now, when you're thinking about the investment, you break something, you sit on these. Oops, I've done that before. Luckily, didn't need to repair anything or replace anything, but I could if I need to. They're also closed back. You can tell by the huge cup and shell here. And these ones do cost a little bit more, generally speaking, around the $130 range. Are they worth that much more? Still to come. Here's what they sound like, and this is probably the part I prefer. Now, there is that low, little bit of a mud cut around 200 hertz here, but you'll take notice that the low end is not overly exaggerated. The high does have some boost, but more importantly, the highs have some cuts. And the cuts, I think, actually enhance some of the boosts. You don't need to boost everything. Sometimes the cut works equally effective as boosting somewhere else. So these ones are less V-shaped. These ones are less, some people might say musical, but or fun. To me, and people say the 7506s are flat. I mean, yeah, they might be flat in comparison to some Beats headphones or some Bose headphones. The 7506s have some punch and some flavor, and they're V-shaped. The 770s are a lot more flat for my ears and what I've ever observed. So let's get into the back and forth. Who wins in build quality? The 770. It's got a bit of a chunkier design. Like I said before, all the parts are replaceable. I have sat on these headphones before. Now, if I had sat on the Sonys, I think they might have been done with. They're not poorly built by any means. They're just a little bit more flimsy and fragile as opposed to the 770s. These feel beefier. I know over time these would last longer on an everyday basis. In terms of build quality, these also have I'm talking about the 770s, the velour head pads or the ear pads, which is a big difference because a lot of times all you're used to is this kind of pleather, fake something material, whatever this is on the Sonys. And by the way, I had a pair of these Sonys that I just simply didn't use for 2 years. I didn't even use them, and they cracked from disuse. That would never happen here on the 770s. The ear pads on the Sonys, don't like them. And by the way, not a big deal. You can actually replace those. Here's another pair of 7506s. Oh, look at these. These are like custom ear pads. And these ones have much more of a leathery feel. They're not real leather, but... so anyway, it just goes to show you that it's not the end of the world, the cheaper ear pads, but it does make a difference. Also, in terms of comfort factor, I've grown to really prefer the velour instead of the plastic. And also the 770, I feel like, and just do the hand test, yeah, I mean, the 770 has a little bit more of a robust cord. By the way, the 770s have coiled cables on the 250 and 32 ohm. They're straight on the 80 ohm, but the 7506 has a coiled cable on only one version of it. So if you prefer one or the other, I'm just here to say the 770 has a little bit of a thicker cord. Okay, the next category head-to-head here is wearable. And I'm actually going to give that to the 7506. I'm going to give the edge there. It's lighter weight, as I said before, less chunky. It's also less clamping on your head. The force it puts on your ears over a long period of listening, not a big difference. These are not painful at all, don't get me wrong. But these have just a little bit less grab on your head. Now, maybe you prefer more grab on your head, more sealing around your ears. But these kind of sit on your ears, and this is my last point here, flatter on your ears. Essentially, the 770s have a big cup. There's a big cavity inside here for your ear to fit. Like your entire ear will fit inside the cup. On the 7506s, basically this is going to be flat and push on your ear a little bit. That being said, and I would say that might be a negative for fatigue, right? It's a little bit more flat and pushing on your ears. But because the 7506s don't trap as much heat in there, they are actually cooler on your ears. So all of that you need to put together and make a decision. Again, I'm saying the flatter part is not a positive. It's a factor. But overall, in terms of wearability, if you were going to put these on for 8 hours a day, every day, the 7506s might be just a little bit more wearable. Okay, how about the Soundstage? Easier to say or easier to write than to say. The 770s just have a wider sound. And again, that goes back, I think, to probably design and just the drivers in here, but also the amount of space inside the headphones. The cans have some room inside here. And I think that plays into just a wider soundstage. There's also, in my opinion, better detail in the 770s. Now, is part of that just the frequency curve and it being more flat? I feel like it's the mid-range where you really get detail in these headphones. And as I record things here, if I put on the 7506s, now, obviously I'm trained to the 770s. That's what I use here in all my videos. But if I were to monitor myself recording right now, it would sound weird and different in the 7506s. And that's normal. They're just different headphones. But I do feel like there's a little bit less detail in the vocal ranges. So if you're recording voiceover, voice acting, your own voice, somebody else's voice, I think you're going to hear it a lot better on the 770s. And yeah, there's just space for your ears in these cans. So Soundstage, 770s win. How about better tone? Okay, the 770s also win here. Again, they're just more natural. I like V-shaped headphones, like the DT990s, which I'll also make a separate video on, or my Apple EarPods Pro 2, is that what they're called? They're V-shaped. They're fun to listen to. Like they've got the bass, they've got the high-end sizzle, they've got the punch. But if I'm listening critical and I'm trying to, make sure I get all the tones and frequencies right, I want something that's more neutral and natural, and these 770s are exactly it. There is enough low end. I don't want to tell you these are extremely flat and you're not going to enjoy listening to music, because that's part of it. There is enough low end here, especially on the 250 and 32 ohm version. The 80 is even more flat, by the way. Detailed mids, I just spelled that out, and the highs are tamed. You don't have a bunch of sharp, piercing highs in these headphones. So overall, better tone, less fatiguing. I said before that, the 7506s might be more comfortable on your head for a long period of time. Well, the 770s might be more comfortable to what you're listening to over a long period of time. Okay, how about versatility? I'm going to award that to the 7506s because of a couple reasons. Number one, that low impedance I suggested before. If you have these 250s, like I can't plug these into an iPhone with an adapter and get any reasonable sound. It's going to be super low volume. The drive of the iPhone or any tablet or any mobile device, it's not enough to power these headphones. You literally need a headphone amp for 250. And I would highly recommend one probably even for 80 if you want to get full sound out of it. Otherwise, you're cranking it all the way up to 100 on 80 and you're just getting the cusp of what you want. Now, the 32 ohm version of the DT770s, they're great, but you'd have to go with that model specifically. It's a good model. I love the way they sound, but these are just more flexible. I could bring these to a studio. I could plug these into my iPhone or my computer. These will work almost universally. Plug it into a camera. And so if you're looking for versatility, the 7506s have that. They also have the fact that they're foldable. Look at that. They get a lot more small if you want to throw these into a bag or its carrying case. The 770s do not bend in any recommendable way. Did I make up a word? The 770s are also a little bit heavier, so the 7506s are more lightweight. These are also, I say, less intrusive. For example, if I wear these somewhere in public, somebody's going to go, well, what is that guy listening to? Or what are those headphones? You don't see these out in public, if that's a thing to you, versus these, which, yeah, they've been industry standards in recording studios over the years, but you've also seen these out in the wild. So these are less intrusive, less maybe shocking from a public standpoint. So the ultimate verdict, what do I use? Well, yeah, it's clear. They're on my head right now. The DT770s. And in terms of recording and mastering things, the closed back works for me. This is my preference. Now, maybe if you listen to music on a regular basis and that's all you do, you're not recording or mastering, maybe something else is your choice. I'm saying for this, specific use case, the 770s are for me. They're more accurate than the 7506s. I also think they're cost effective. Again, if we're talking about $30 initially at the point of purchase, and you're already going to spend about $100 anyway, that extra $30 is going to buy you better quality, better longevity, durability, buy it once type mentality. You might step on these, break these, and go through 3 of these in the time that you have one pair of DT770s. I think it's cost effective. I think the $30 or so extra is totally worth it. And I'll tell you why I believe in these, and I'm sticking with these. Beyerdynamic has come out with, I think it's the Pro 1770s. They've also come out with the 770Xs. Like, they've improved. I say improved. They've come out with updated versions of these cans. But they still sell these. And these are still super popular. And like the 7506s, these might never be discontinued. What does that tell you? In a time where technology and advancements happen all the time, and these are still cooking, and these are still the preference of look at recording artists. Watch videos of what musicians are using when they're doing their ultimate recording work. A lot of times, sometimes these, a lot of times these. So that's my verdict. For me, it's the DT770s. I love the Beyerdynamic products, and yeah, you'll see me wearing these on all my videos now and probably for many years to come. Hopefully, that comparison, that side-by-side, helped you out in understanding or making a decision.